Well, yeah, catchers, I mean, I'm learning something about them every day. Kind of a unique challenge. A challenge I haven't had in my coaching career is having four brand new guys. That being said, I've also not been in a position where I feel like I've had four guys that are this talented from top to bottom. I don't see that as a negative. I see that as a positive. We got a lot of talent behind the plate, and every guy does something a little bit different. Every guy needs to improve on something a little bit more. And I think I mentioned this maybe at the first pitch banquet that it's going to take all four of them to win a national championship. And we need everybody in order to do that. And I joked, I made a comment, I had to catch a break his leg in the national championship game, as you guys know. And so they all have to be next man up mentality and be prepared when their time is called. And I remind them daily it's to be successful in baseball and in life in general, it's you don't get to choose when your opportunity is. It's better to be prepared for an opportunity and not have it than to have an opportunity and not be prepared. And that's kind of the mindset that I've challenged these guys with. As heard Coach Yesky allude to being servant leaders. They're here to make our pitching staff better first and foremost. We kind of tackle that a little bit different. Each other, he takes on like, hey, he likes catchers more than any pitching coach I've ever been around. And I like that. And so he likes to tell them, like, hey, we're going to get you back in the box as soon as we can and back out in the dugout. And I tend to say, hey, we're servant to the pitcher. Whatever they need, we're going to be there for it. So
you guys have run a lot of multi-catcher systems in the last couple of years with Milazzo and Travinsky and several others. Just what do you like about that way of running the catcher spot?
Fatigue, to be honest with you, it's a long season. I always look at it, and my expectation, I've never gone on a bus or plane to go anywhere to play to lose. And so I anticipate every day we show up at the ballpark, we're going to win. If we continue to do that, we're going to be in Omaha. And so I look and say, hey, we're going to need every guy fresh and playing their best baseball in May and June. And so we have to share that workload. And I think that's what I like about being able to rotate guys in and out. I do is keep them off their feet, keep them fresh. I'm big into the recovery. I challenge them on how they're, literally 2 days ago I had a meeting with every single guy, a 15, 20-minute meeting about nutrition, sleep, hydration, recovery, even mental health in terms of what your week's been like, in terms of how you manage school, all those things. That's important to me because that allows me to get the best version of them. And ultimately, then they have a chance to make our pitching staff better when they're in that mind frame. And so I'm really cognizant of that and make sure they're on top of that aspect of their game.
Sort of build off Glenn's question, not to say that anyone's going to pull Milazzo like 4 games in 5 days or anything like that on this team, but how do you sort of build up that, I guess, stamina to potentially, if you're in a situation where the guy's playing really well and you want to play him, 3 times in a weekend, how do you use the preseason to sort of build up that guy's stamina so he can do that?
Well, we definitely have a guy who can pull up Milazzo. We have a guy who can catch 4 out of 5 days. There's no doubt about it. They can do that. And ultimately, we've made a change in terms of how we've managed even the fall and how we've managed the spring, more importantly. If you notice, this spring, a guy's caught all one game in the scrimmage, and then he's taken the next day off. That's intentional in the fact that we do want to build up that stamina so we can actually develop a guy to, again, be able, and that's also allows us as a coaching staff to evaluate him more efficiently. As time goes on, one of the things that's really not understood about the catching game is the amount of pitches you actually come in contact with over the course of a game, and that in terms of focus and having guys being locked in every single pitch. Well, if you have to go out there for 30 pitches, well, that's easy to focus. It's easy to focus for 2 minutes, but now we're talking about 60 minutes. Now we're talking 140 pitches. So when you start looking at it, then now we're actually developing from that side of it too, because we're ultimately, all these guys, I'm trying to develop them for professional baseball, because that's why they come to LSU, is to go on and play into professional baseball. And so for me, that's part of it. The professional baseball season's long, and I'm trying to get every single guy in a position to be successful and go on to the next level.
Coach Johnson was telling us at media days that he was, I don't want to say surprised, but Luis Hernandez exceeded expectations behind the plate because he didn't really play it a whole lot last year. Just from your perspective, what has he done behind the plate at catcher that makes you believe that he can be one of your go-to guys there?
Well, Luis, he did. He surprised me, quite frankly. I would agree with Coach Johnson. Coming in here, I didn't know what to kind of expect because we didn't have a good body of work. We'd done our research, done our homework on him, but didn't know what to expect, and it was a pleasant surprise. But first and foremost, Luis is a baseball player. And that's what Luis is, if you were to ask me who he is. He's a baseball player. You can put a first baseman's mitt on him, and I feel confident he'd go field a ground ball and step on first base. If you put an outfield glove on him, yeah, he might not get to the ball in the gap that Chris Stanfield would, but if it was hit to him, he's going to catch it. And so Luis is, first and foremost, a great baseball player. And then ultimately, I challenge every single one of our catchers with this group is I'm big on what is your energy and how's your synergy. Because ultimately, if you can do one and two of those, then now we got a chance to develop your receiving. Now we have a chance to develop your blocking and the throwing ability and all the other things that go into catching. And so from that perspective, Luis has great energy. I mean, I tweeted out yesterday, big energy. I mean, that's who he is. He's a big energy guy, and he has unbelievable synergy. I mean, the guys call him Poppy. And again, I love it. And so he's fit in really, really well, and I'm glad he's on our team. He makes our team better.
Everybody wants to know who does what best. I don't want you to go there, but like, what do you like, I guess, most about each of the four guys you do?
Well, let's stay with Luis first and foremost. What I like about him is how he sees the game. He sees some things and has a unique perspective. He's very wise for a guy that hasn't been back there a lot, and he's also a very mature person. And so I really value that in him. He has unbelievable receiving ability. He can throw. He's very accurate. And he just knows the game. Goes back to being a baseball player. So I think from that standpoint, I think he's wise even though he's not experienced. So he sees the game really, really well and at a very high level. What I like about Cade Arrambide is he probably has more tools than any catcher I've ever coached. It's a big arm. It's big athleticism. It's a big body. Really, really high ceiling. And so when you get him as a freshman, and you have a guy who's eager to learn. I mean, he's so excited about learning this game at this level. I love it. And he has all the tools and all the makings to be really, really special. And we're going to be able to bring him along at a pace that allows him to really, truly grow and develop, both offensively and defensively. And I think that's going to do a lot for his career long term. No question about it. And then you got a guy like Blaze Priester. I mean, that guy, big energy, just like Luis. Strong hands. If I've always say I like about him is he's a guy who can catch Chase Shores, who throws the ball 98, 99 miles an hour with some sink, and he has a hand strength to maintain it. And he has a big arm as well. And so this group of catchers probably throw better than any group of catchers I've ever coached. I mean, we did first and third defense yesterday, and I got excited. It was fun to watch. I throw it to our guys because I kind of know what I want to do with them in that setting, and it was exciting. We could have done it all afternoon. Now, their arms may not have held up, but I could have watched that all day long because it was really exciting. And Blaze has a big arm. Eddie Yemen, a lot of fun. I mean, I don't think Eddie has a bad day at the ballpark. And I love that about it because when you talk about synergy in our catching staff and our core, that helps because he shows up, he's eager to learn, and he's a really good receiver. And, we challenge. We have a competition amongst our catchers, and I would say in terms of the receiving competition over the weekend, he won that. And so we have a lot that we need to figure out behind the plate in terms of what we need to do and what's going to make us successful. But what we don't have to figure out is who we got. I'm really confident in the people we have behind the plate that are going to make our pitching staff better.
You mentioned Cade's been wanting to learn and learning a lot. What is he learning, and what are you sort of emphasizing him?
Well, what he doesn't know, he doesn't know.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking about a young man. The other three guys have collegiate experience, and they're just, from an age standpoint, they're older. And Cade he's never done this. And what you don't know, you don't know. And so the thing for me with Cade, what I like about it is he's been so mature beyond his years in terms of how he's managed it. He's been able to slow things down this spring. And Coach Johnson says it all the time, and you guys may have heard him say it. You can't control the outcome until you're in control of yourself. And Cade has been in complete control of himself. And I'm really excited about what he's going to become in this program because, again, the future is very bright with him behind the plate.
Do you work for the outcome?
I do not. I just tell Coach Simpson, please make sure they catch it.
I guess guys like with guys that don't have a ton of SEC experience, it's none of these guys even caught in an SEC game. So how do you sort of work on helping them understand like what the pace of the game, the intensity of the game, like just the kind of the SEC experience?
Well, I'm in their ear a lot. They wear the headset. I speed them up. Say, hey, the tempo's got to pick up. I know they probably get tired of hearing me say that. Coach Yeski and I man the walkie. I stand beside him. You'll see me stand beside him, and I know you've seen me stand beside him in games. We've manned the walkie a lot. We're trying to pick up the pace, and make sure. That being said, it goes back to the people. These guys have put in the work, and so I'm fully prepared for them to show me what they can do in an SEC game. I really am. I'm not worried about that because the maturity of the people we have. Now, if they were immature people, I would have concern, but they're not. They're great kids. They're great humans, and I'm excited I get to coach them. So I'm not worried about that. Again, there's no way to replicate SEC play. The closest thing we have is, we have a lot of really good SEC arms, and I know they're catching them. And we have a lot of guys that show up, and a lot of people, I guess a better way of saying it, for our games and our scrimmages in the preseason. So there'll be a maturation process that I know when the time comes they'll be ready.
Your thoughts on the double first base?
My thoughts on the double first base? Yeah, because I coach first baseman. I felt like, honestly, it's like anything else. If you don't make it a thing, it's not a thing. I mean, they kind of dropped it on us in the SEC tournament. It was news to me. I was like, wow, there's two bases there. And so I was like, that's awesome. And I think that's how our guys last year viewed it. And I think, like anything else, it's not a thing if you don't make it a thing.
Do
And
you think it's going to serve its purpose?
do I think it's going to serve its purpose? Well, we'll see. I thought maybe it did in the SEC tournament. I didn't see, anything negative or really overwhelmingly like, wow, that was a huge positive. I think as we get more games with it, maybe we have a chance to kind of have an idea of, well, does it serve its purpose? But, some would argue our best player is playing first base. So if it keeps Jared Jones safe, now I wouldn't want to come in contact with Jared Jones in any scenario. But if it feels like it keeps Jared safe, then so be it. Good for us because we need him in the lineup. And so we'll see over the course of the season. But I think it goes back to last year. I don't think it's a thing if you don't make it a thing.
I'm not a catching expert, but there's this big debate over whether catchers should have one knee down or just have a more traditional squat. Like, do you sort of have an opinion on that?
I don't have an opinion on it. It's funny. It's amazing to me what catchers have been able to do on a knee. I think if you follow me on Twitter, I sent something out in the fall. I said, wow, look what that catcher did on a knee. I think it depends on the athlete. I've always, from the time I started coaching, one of the best pieces of advice I ever received was, you're in the people business. First of all, it goes back to you better know your people. And you better know, I always look at when I'm coaching anyone, any position, whether it be first base, outfielders, catchers, and infielders, which I've done them all in the past in my coaching career. I always looked at it and said, okay, what do we know about that person? What do we need to teach? And what do we need to maintain? And so if you evaluate at each position around the field, those three things, you tend to gear your instruction and how you develop them in that manner. And if I feel like I got a good enough athlete that he can stay on the knee the whole time and he can execute what we need to do in terms of the receiving percentages, the throwing, and the blocking percentages that we have, then I think on a knee it actually keeps him in better shape, which is what we alluded to earlier, takes the wear and tear off the body. But again, it goes back to who do we have and how are we coaching them and developing them and developing them to move on to professional baseball. It's just like college football. I know Coach Yeski alluded to it. You want to run a pro system if you want to go play in the NFL, right? Well, I think all 30 teams, all big league catchers this year spent time on a knee in the big leagues. And so I'm going to always try to push the envelope in terms of developing professional baseball because I think that's what they're going to be asked to do when that time comes. That doesn't mean being on 2 feet is bad. That doesn't mean running no different than in Tiger Stadium, them running some type of spread play. And so we're going to have all the techniques and the things that we need to do to win a baseball game in the SEC. And sometimes you may see our guys on 2 feet. Milazzo did it. Travinsky. He didn't do it because of just some things in terms of his health history in the past. You'll see Blaze a lot of times on 2 feet. You may see Hernandez get to 2 feet at times. And so it just depends on what we're looking to execute, and that's the value of the walkie and the communication piece that we are now have the ability to do.
One more from Cliff?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know recruiting's a 24/7 gig.
Always.
What does that look like in season though for you guys in terms of keeping up with those players, bringing them in? Like, what is that process like in the season?
Well, you know, the nice thing about the season is really about two things for me. Number one, how are they doing? How are their season going? How are they maintaining it? I think we do a really good job of communicating on that level as a coaching staff. In season, it takes, again, everyone to have that level of communication. We kind of divide up the caller list a little bit and kind of have guys touch base because, you know, there's only so many hours in a day. But we're all communicating with our guys, how they're doing, how they're playing, those sorts of things. You focus a lot on that. You know, here in the next few days, Coach Simpson and myself and Coach Johnson will sit down and try to map out, you know, maybe where we're going to be in March in terms of what we need to see and what we need to go out and find out and learn and discover. And then ultimately, the best recruiting tool is winning. I mean, the players that we want to come to LSU, you know, us going out and having a great season, which I fully anticipate us doing, is a great advertisement. And when they, you know, turn on the SEC Network or ESPN and they see, you know, Alex Box Stadium full with the best college baseball fans in the country, and us playing well and seeing guys developing, I think that's a great recruiting tool. And so I think this is going to be an exciting spring for our recruits.
Thanks, Coach. All right.
Thank
Thanks,
you guys.
Coach.
Appreciate it.